I don't know what my philosophy of life is. It's like treat other human beings with respect, you know, and try and act decently in this world. And as far as my films go, I think each one is it's telling what what I've come to realize is what I love to do more than anything is tell a story. I think stories are very important to the human race. They help us understand how we fit into the scheme of things.
The philosophy that shows in my work is might not be reflective of real life, but it's kind of more of a wish that that people kind of discover their own innate goodness, that people find ways to integrate their personalities and identify what's really important. Someone said that the last few films I've made, probably starting with Groundhog Day, which would be Groundhog Day, Stewart Saves His Family, Multiplicity, which is a movie about a guy cloning himself. Stewart's a movie about a 12-step program's codependence and addiction. And Analyze This, wherein a gangster learns to get in touch with his grief, his rage, and anxiety, and in the process is able to renounce violence. All these movies are about how to improve the quality of our individual lives and how to integrate the self somehow. So together they represent, like I say, a wish, not necessarily a consistent philosophy. What I believe in life, it's a smattering of, it's a little bit of Buddhism. I'm not disciplined enough to be real Buddhist, so I tell people I'm Buddhish, a little bit Buddhish. And a lot of psychology that I've garnered both by being in therapy and having a dozen friends who practice psychotherapy in one form or another. And being Jewish and kind of Talmudic and rabbinical in my approach anyway, it's kind of built into Judaism in a certain way. And having this kind of overworked sense of social justice that I got from growing up, from being little and small in the 50s and coming of age in the 60s. All that just sort of swims together in my head and comes out in this kind of, it might be kind of pathetic, nice guy philosophy, that if, at its worst, it's like, it's like a bad Beatles song, give peace a chance or something. But
I mean, as far as a philosophy about life, that's such a large question. I mean, I think, each day I'm trying to get closer and closer to what I consider, the force or the God force in the universe. I try to walk through it, and feel that. I won't know I'm there until every time I walk or breathe, I feel that in everything I do, in my work, in my life, when I eat, with my kids, I try to move there. That's my journey. And the storytelling is a part of me, it's like breathing for me a little bit, it's all one thing,
Oh, geez, I'm still working on my basic philosophy of life, which is probably why I'm still writing books and making movies. So I don't have one written down yet.
There's a couple of great things that I quote all the time. One is a poem by the Buddhist poet Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist priest. And he said, the miracle is not to walk on the water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth, dwelling deeply in the present moment, feeling truly alive. Which I think is a great thing about overreaching. It's like, you don't, and it applies to everything we're talking about, your own career goals. You don't have to work miracles, just, be in the moment, be aware of what's going on around you, be grounded, The other thing is, there's a very good Korean Buddhist teacher named Sansanim, who has a real simple philosophy. He slaps the ground and he says, don't know, only go straight. For 10,000 years, save all sentient beings from suffering. So the don't know part is, there's this, you've maybe heard the phrase Zen mind, beginner's mind. It's about not approaching situations with preconceived ideas. A lot of people, because we're all afraid and insecure, we don't know what's really going to happen to us. Sometimes we have a very vague understanding of what's going on around us or the world. So we try to shore ourselves up with belief. You know, we get we want to have opinions. We got to have opinions. You know, I love listening to people argue about complex situations like maybe Kosovo, you know, with no more information than they got from reading the newspaper that morning. But suddenly everyone's an expert on Kosovo because you got to have an opinion, as if, you know, having an opinion is your protection against chaos somehow. But the Buddhist argument is don't know. Don't go into situations pretending you know something you don't, or trying to know everything. It's a much more interesting and much more informed way to live, to just don't know. Have an open mind. Listen to everything. You know, it's something I practice. When I go into meetings, you know, I notice that everyone in the meeting is trying to have the right idea. You know, everyone wants to be recognized as the guy who knows. And particularly for a film director, it's a real temptation to want to know everything because you think you have to be in control, and we think that knowing equals control equals mastery of life somehow, you know, but it doesn't translate that way. It's important for the director to be able to say at some point, I don't know, you know, what do you think, you know? The first time I was directing a movie, the cameraman said, where do you want the camera, sir? And they call you sir like it's an insult, you know. And I said, we were on a golf course, you know, 360 degrees, trees and grass. I said, what's the difference? Well, let's look this way. And he looks over there and he says, so do you want us to move the lunch tent and all the tables and the catering truck and the generators and, you know, the prop truck and the wardrobe truck? I said, no, let's not move that. Let's look over here. So then I learned to say, you know, instead of pretending I knew something, you know, trying to look like I was in charge, when they said, where do you want the camera? I'd say, I don't know, what do you think? So it applies like when I go to meetings, you know, this, like I was starting to say, this tendency to want to know things. I don't come in and try to dominate a meeting with what I know. I tend to listen to everyone else, you know, and then form an opinion based on the reality of the situation, not on my need to project some kind of control or dominance. It's not a competition, you know, it's I try to speak last after I've heard everyone talk, and then try to synthesize the wisest solution based on what everyone else said, and then contributing my own ideas. So don't know, you know, only go straight. 10,000 years, which means be patient. It takes my father-in-law, who was a very successful film director who passed away, a man named Danny Mann, directed 24 features, and he was a very good acting teacher and directed some very big features. He directed 3 actresses to Academy Awards. Did Come Back Little Sheba, The Rose Tattoo, I'll Cry Tomorrow, Butterfield 8, Tea House of the August Moon, a lot of, you know, Our Man Flint, you know, a succession of kind of interesting movies. He did a movie called Playing for Time with Vanessa Redgrave. He said it takes 20 years to learn anything. So it's important to be patient, you know. I think when you're trying to make a career or get something done, it could take years to get a movie off the ground. You may have to live with your greatest idea for 10 years before it, and it may take you 20 years to master your craft to the point where people really want to use you or employ you. So I'd say, you know, 10,000 years, maybe a little long, but, you know, 20 years, it might take that long.